Hey guys, just taking a quick break to talk about our sponsor, Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. Yeah, that was a Bill Burr impersonation. Not the greatest, working on it. But anyways, so it's a podcasting suite full of creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast straight from your phone or computer. In addition to that, it helps you get your podcast distributed onto popular podcasting platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and like many more, like Google and like a bunch of others I'm pretty sure you haven't even heard of. It makes it easy to make money from your podcast by hooking you up with sponsors. And the best thing about that is that you don't need any minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place and more. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a problem. A lot of people in my life, well, I guess it's not a lot of people, but a good amount of people in my life believe really interesting things. And as of late, like they've been telling me that I'm wrong. And you know what the latest thing I found out that some people around me believe in is? They believe that space is fake. Yeah, I don't know. Like it's crazy. I don't know why or how you develop a belief that space is fake. But then let's just say that somebody in my life believes space is completely fake. Like, yeah, well, I guess I gotta like get into like the background of it and everything. Like, I asked this individual what did they think about Elon Musk, having SpaceX and Jeff Bezos having his like Blue Origin space company. And then that person responded to me by saying, "You believe space is real?" Yeah, I don't know, Yeah, I really don't know, what to even say about that. Like to me it's like bizarre, but I had to find out more about why that individual thought space is fake and everything. And what I've realized, or what they told me, was that they believe space is fake because space isn't mentioned in the Bible. And then, it just like led to like a very interesting, chain of discussions. Of course, it talked more about space. Of course, the whole flat Earth thing was on the table. Talks about like evolution was on the table as well, but let's just stick with space is fake for now. First, like we talked about like what they thought about the moon landings and everything in like the 1970s, and they told me that he believed, or I guess I don't know, they I don't know what's more right to say, but they believe that space or the moon landings were all filmed in Hollywood. Yeah, I don't know. And then when I asked them about like the stars, the moon, the sun and everything, that person told me that like they thought that they're just like lights, almost like we're in like a dome or something, and like there really is no like universe, and like there's only the Earth. I don't know. And then I don't know, it's crazy because like that person wasn't the only person who in that setting that believed in it. It was like a bunch of people that believed in it, and it was all, the reasoning I got for it was all religious based reasoning, where in a sense that they just kind of in a sense like denied or deny science. And, having been in the sciences for so long, it just kind of blew my mind how they were saying that I wasn't open-minded enough to, even consider the fact that space is fake and a bunch of those other things are fake or lies or whatever it may be. Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. There's really no other way I can like describe it or explain it other than me thinking it's crazy that there's people in my life who reject science and choose a religious basis for answering all questions in life. And I don't know how to get through. I don't know. I tried to reason with them, talk about why there's more evidence through science-based approaches for explaining some of these like questions in life, yet like they just cited like religious like text or like it's not in the Bible, therefore it's not true. Like, it just blows my mind that there's people out there that choose to not understand or not to attempt to understand science in or at least entertaining those ideas for science and saying that no, science is completely wrong and that religion is like the way we answer questions. I don't know. I could be wrong. Who knows? I really don't know. But I just thought it was really funny that they thought I wasn't being open-minded for saying, or like trying to use science to reason out why space is real and not fake. And I don't know. It's just really depressing. It's really disappointing. Not really depressing, just disappointing that there's individuals in my life that don't like science or refuse to or see no value in science. But yeah, it was just crazy. But of course it led to like other conversations about like flat earth, and like the reason why they thought flat earth was a thing because like I think they were saying like in the Bible or something that the earth is flat, and that in the I think it also like relates to like that whole belief that earth is the center of the universe. Well, I guess you can't really even say like that. I don't know. To me, that doesn't really make any sense because you can't really say the earth is the center of the universe unless you believe in space. Unless like we both have like very different interpretations or like definitions for what we're defining as the word universe. Like when I think universe, I think of like space, like the endlessness of space. But then like when I think of I'm assuming what they think of universe is just anything in existence. So I don't know, it was just a crazy weekend, talking about all these different things. There's that. A person believed that evolution was false and that creationism was true. And I don't know. It's just that I don't see a way for me to be able to reason with individuals like this because like they're so set in their beliefs about questions like these in life, and they only choose or they refuse to listen to any science-based reasoning unless it probably supports what they believe. I don't know. I think that's just something we all deal with in society or with problems or whenever we pick a side. Like I feel like it's all you have a conclusion already made and you try to find evidence to support your own conclusion rather than looking at the facts objectively and then drawing your own conclusions. But I don't know. I feel like it's probably something in like psychology, being the reason for why we have some kind of like confirmation bias, whereas we look at things objectively and then draw conclusions. But other than that, it was a great weekend, great long weekend. Started off great, started off Saturday workouts and everything. Had a great dinner. I went to this place called Hanno Dai Dokoro in Ward Village or Ward Center. I don't even know what that whole Ward area is called anymore. Kakaako Ward? I don't know. But yeah, that place was pretty good. I mean, it's like a Japanese style Korean barbecue, but I don't really know how true that is because they did serve like kimchi. But yeah, I'd say just given off of the name, it's Japanese style. And the thing that made that place special or different from anywhere else is that they serve something called Miyazaki beef. So it's supposed to be like Kobe beef, but like from a different region. I've never had true Kobe beef, so I can't really speak to that. But I've had like Wagyu or like Wagyu like beef fat. And I don't know, all I have to say is that like flavor wise it's very different. Like the Miyazaki beef was very light. It was very clean tasting. Like it didn't taste fatty like, a typical beef or like, a USDA like prime type beef. I don't know if a lot of people agree, but I find like Wagyu beef fat to be a little on the sweeter side. But like the Miyazaki was very clean. It was relatively flavorless. Not I don't mean in it like in a bad way flavorless. Like it didn't have any sharp flavors like this, like that sweetness, or like if you have grass fed, if you eat the fat, sometimes you taste a little bit of the grassiness within the fat. I mean, of course it's much more pronounced in the beef. But in like really grass fed meat has like, barely any fat. But like the Miyazaki beef, like it was very, yeah, I'd say it was very clean. It wasn't that beefy. Like I guess it's like beef butter essentially, I don't know. But I like to see what other people think about like Miyazaki beef and everything. Like I don't know, I enjoyed the experience. Like it was a good fun, with like, friends eating and everything. It was just a good experience overall. But I don't know if I'd go back. To me, it's equivalent to like going to like Tanaka of Tokyo. I feel like Tanaka of Tokyo or any like, what is that, teppanyaki or whatever they're called. Like I feel like they're just like a one-time thing. You don't need to like go more than once. Like honestly, like the experience is like pretty much the same every single time you go to like Tanaka, Tokyo, and it's the same thing with like Benihanas and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, they just cook in front of you. The food is like at those places, and you're really just getting the show. But it's like at the end of the day, it's like, geez, like can you just cook it faster so I can eat faster? And it's not like it tastes like particularly like amazing or anything where it's like, wow, I need to go back. And it's like pretty expensive for what it is, in my opinion. Yeah, you can definitely get better quality food or more food for that price. And I kind of felt the same way about like, yeah, eating at that place over the weekend. I mean, it was very good, don't get me wrong, but I think it was like a one-time experience, and like I'm glad to have had the experience, but I don't necessarily need to experience it again. But yeah, I think that's just also how I am. Like I like to try new things. Like I know a lot of people like to, relive experiences or try to have experiences, or like to go to like the same restaurants over and over again. Yeah, like one of my cousins, like he loves to go to Chili's, and I don't know, Chili's to me is Chili's. Like it's you're just going there and you kind of know what you're getting. It's not anything special to me or anything. It's just Chili's. Like I don't know. I think the food is really salty there too, though. Not my favorite place. Much rather go to like CPK or something for the same like type of like franchise or like restaurant. I don't know. But and I found out recently that there is going to be a Chick-fil-A opening real soon in Kaneohe. I don't know why Chick-fil-A is opening way out there. I don't know why a lot of these restaurants open up in places outside of like town, like outside of Honolulu. Like I think the only thing that opened first in town was Raising Cane's, kind of by like UH, and it's Raising Cane's. Like it's like fast food. I don't think Raising Cane's is all that special. I did eat there on Thursday though, so that was kind of cool. Yeah, but I went to the one in Pearl City because, or not Pearl City, Hawaii Kai, because the one in Hawaii Kai, or I was out in Hawaii Kai because we had a softball game. So that same cousin that likes Chili's, yep, shout out to Kai. Don't know if you listen to this, but he signed us, me, him, and one of his friends are playing in a softball league now in Hawaii Kai. And it's, I don't know, softball is such a weird sport in my opinion. Like, it was very like PE, type vibes, you know. Yeah, I don't know. It was like, in your PE again, playing like a team sport. Yeah, I mean, obviously everybody there knew how to play, but obviously, in like softball leagues like that, it's usually like older people playing. So it's weird. We play with like a limited flight, like a really squishy softball. So for those of you that play baseball, imagine like a pinto ball, but like it a lot bigger. I think it's a 12-inch softball in, was that circumference? So yeah, it's a pretty big softball, and like it's squishy, so of course like the ball won't go very far, when you hit it. And then on top of that, like it's interesting because you're playing on the small field, so I think the bases are like 40 feet or something, like really short. Like, is that the Pinto field? I don't know the dimensions of like fields smaller than like a regular sized baseball field, but yeah, the distances are really short. Ball doesn't go very far, and there's 4 outfielders, so it's really hard to hit like in the gaps and everything. So I guess the play in that like league is like just hit singles, like try to gap it through the infield. Although I mean, it's, since there's 4 outfielders, like on one of the defensive outings, I was playing, what is that, like right center fielder, I guess, and then like I could have easily thrown out a guy at first, but it's like an old person league, so like it's kind of weird. Like, I just, for myself, I wish it was a little more competitive. I don't know. It's fun, but it's a little bittersweet, and I think I'll just leave it at that. Like, I think I'm scheduled to still play on this coming Thursday. We'll see how that goes, but I really don't know. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun. It was nice to play something that resembled like baseball, because it's not every day I even am able to like throw a baseball or anything with somebody, and it's fun. Like, it's something I miss a lot. It's just weird that I haven't touched a bat in like 10 years or so, and then I had to pick one up and swing. But not too bad. Like, I think I only had like 2 at bats each game. Oh yeah, we played 2 games to like fill. But yeah, 2 at bats, and like went 1 for 2 each game. So on the day, like 2 for 4. Like, that's not too bad. I don't know. I feel like that's actually pretty terrible, given it's like slow pitch, almost like a mountain ball, and like only getting on half of the time. I think that's pretty bad. I don't know. Somebody might tell me otherwise, but I don't know. I feel like I expect more out of myself. I feel like you should be able to get on almost every single time, but it's definitely different. Like, you have to like wait a lot. Like, the pitcher is like a pretty far distance from the plate, and it's like a really slow pitch, like almost like a mountain ball like pitch, and it's definitely different hitting than a baseball. Like, it's coming down a lot steeper. The bat's a little different. I just feel like the swing's very different. Like, I go in it swinging like a baseball player, but I don't know. I don't really necessarily have the nicest baseball swing either, since like I didn't really play or hit in high school, other than like my freshman year. Yeah, just bizarre and weird, I guess, like sequence of events for us to be able to play softball in like this league. Oh, just enjoy it for a little while, see what happens. It's just fun. It's just like an activity for an hour of our day, and it's like get to hang out with a cousin and one of his friends. Like, that's kind of cool. But yeah, there's that. the restaurant on Saturday. Oh, Sunday. And then Sunday was great too because ate at this place called Little G's. Shout out to my friend Jared out there. Like, makes the best pizzas on the island, in my opinion. Uh, yeah, okay, easily makes the best pizzas on the island. I haven't tried any of his new pizzas that he serves throughout the week, but on Sundays, he serves the Garibaldi's pizza. So for those of you that don't know, Garibaldi's was a shop inside of Ohana Marketplace at Ward. It's the same. It's the same location where the Sports Authority used to be. For those of you that are familiar with the area, and it was like in the back left corner if you're walking in from like the main entrance side. And like, yeah, easily had the best pizzas on the island. I think they're like Sicilian style pizzas, so like the crust is a little, or the crust is a little thicker than what most people see in Hawaii, but the toppings are all very good. The dough is very good. It's all around very good. The edges and the bottom is nice and crispy. Like I said, toppings are very delicious, and just overall very good pie. I highly recommend everybody try it if you guys want to or like pizza. Like that's definitely like my go-to place for pizza whenever they're open. Like I'll try to go there. I guess I'll talk about like more pizza then. But yeah, if that place isn't open, I'll go to Domino's. I like Domino's way more than Papa John's or Pizza Hut. Like, thing I like about Domino's is I think they have like the best. I think they have the best pizza. Everything's like pretty good. I'd say it's like the Jimmy Butler of pizzas. Like everything on the pizza is like very good, but nothing really stands out in particular. I think it's more of a reasons why I don't like the other pizzas, and I think the reason why I don't like the other places is because I think their sauces are too sweet. Like I feel like they put in a little bit too much sugar to curb the acidity from the tomato sauces, and I don't know. It's just that added sugar taste is a little off-putting to me. Papa John's is pretty good though, except for the sauce. Like their crust is really good. Toppings are typically really good, really good. Pizza Hut's like it's pretty good. It's just I like Domino's a lot better. Like to me, Pizza Hut's a lot more greasier. It does have like that sweet tasting tomato sauce. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm just over it because like that's what everybody grows up on. Doing those like literacy coupons when you read like a book or something. I don't even remember how that like thing worked. I just remember like, yeah, you get a free pizza like every month or something. And it's like I don't know, that sense of pride that you get as a little kid where it's like, yeah, I got my own dinner for once. Your parents don't need to provide for you. Like I feel like that's just something that's like inherently in your personality, or like in like our DNA, or like our instinct to like want to be able to provide for ourselves. And like that was like one great thing about Pizza Hut, where they're able to give us the opportunity as kids to, in a sense, like earn our own food. And that sense of like earning something in it like just feels really good. And I feel like that's something more of us need nowadays, like a sense of like pride over like the work we do or something. And on top of that, it also got us reading. Like as a kid, I hated reading. Well, I can't really say hated, but it just felt like a chore. Like whenever you're forced to do something because it's an assignment, like it kind of removes the fun of like doing that actual thing. And like it's I guess that goes with like everything, right? Like once it becomes like, oh, you're forced to do it because it's like your job or something, maybe you don't enjoy it as much. I don't know. Like I've just always told myself that I never wanted to like feel like I'm working or like doing a chore in whatever it is I'm doing for my career. And I think I've figured out like everything I want to do and how I want to do it and everything. So like it was nice to have that experience as a kid to, in a sense, like kind of build up upon as I grew up and everything. And now it's like I think I'm in a pretty good place. But like I don't know, I guess I kind of wanted to talk more about like literacy and everything, like going back to like the first thing I talked about today. like I feel like a lot of people, I feel like the people in my life that believe like those quote unquote conspiracy theories is that, they just don't have much like scientific literacy. Like I was having a conversation with like a friend about it, and she was saying that like, oh, she thinks it's like just, ignorance. But I don't think it's ignorant, because I tried to like, fight back, or like not really fight back, but argue back, I guess, like, some scientific like, basis for why the earth isn't flat, or why, space exists and whatnot. To the best of my ability. Like, of course, I'm not an expert in anything in that field, but it's like, I noticed that, in that group in particular, I feel like their scientific literacy isn't the greatest. Like we're talking about, vaccines like a time before that. And, we're saying like, oh yeah, it's like a mRNA vaccine, it's like a relatively new technology, being applied. And they're like, oh, what's like, RNA, or like, what's like DNA? Like, I don't know. I always felt like those things, or like the things you learn up until like high school, are like general knowledge questions, or like general knowledge. But I've realized that the general knowledge is like severely lacking there. It might be because they went to like religious schools, or schools that preferred creationism over evolution. But I feel like those, I don't know, I I always feel like, maybe it's best not to teach, creationism, but I feel like at the bare minimum, those schools should at least, teach evolution, and they should teach it like well, and in good faith, if they wanted to, if they want to push like creationism as well. Like, I feel like they should teach both creationism and evolution, and let those students decide for themselves what they think is right. And I think it's also us as like, scientists, and like, or just people that are in science, to say like, or to try to offer better arguments over creationism, for evolution theory. I really don't know, but I just feel like it's like a severe lack of like scientific literacy, and not being able to understand it, or maybe not even having like enough of the basic sciences down to be able to, I guess, in a sense, like think like a scientist, whatever that means. Like, what is that, like deductive like reasoning? Like, I don't know. I always thought that like that's also something like, that should be taught in schools growing up, like logic, or like philosophy. And I realized that as a whole, like there's not many people in life that like to talk about like deep questions like that, or like just questions in general like that. Like asking somebody like, oh, like what is ethics, or like, what is the meaning of life? Like a lot of people, maybe it's slightly skewed, because like I'm asking the same individuals that don't believe in evolution, or like don't believe in space, like those questions, and they, of course, offer like religious based like answers and whatnot. But I don't know, I just wish that those individuals would not call me closed-minded, and they themselves, think a little more open-mindedly about, sciences, or at least try to understand it. Like, especially since like, science is probably more the mainstream thought for those, I guess, like beliefs. There's much more evidence, science-based evidence for them, versus like religious-based evidence. The only religious-based evidence that they provided was the Bible, so everything is literally the Bible. But it's weird. It's weird too. Like, I mean, I'm not religious, but I grew up Catholic, and it's like I never once thought that the Bible was to be taken like literally. Like, to me, I just always saw it as like, oh, it's like, telling like a story, and like it was. And it probably also is because, like, once a creation and everything was like we're kind of like forced to study theology, like it's a graduation requirement. But like, it's like, I don't know, I never really thought that the literal interpretation of that was like the way to go about it. I always thought that all the stories are symbolic, and I feel like the symbolic meanings of, or the symbolism of those stories had more, or has more value than like a literal interpretation of the whatever events you want to talk about. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that the New Testament, was written like 100 years or so. Like, at that time, that's like, 3 generations, 2 or 3 generations, like after, the historical, person, of Jesus actually lived. And it's not saying that everything written there is like, BS or anything. It's just that like, it was like a oral tradition, and it took them that long to like write it down. It's like the game of telephone, when you learn or you play when you're a little kid. Like, very rarely like the messages get passed across like word for word, but then like a lot of the time it's possible that like the message or the meanings can still be there. And it's like, I think if you think back to the time of how they communicated back in the day, or at that time, I think, or at least I don't know how true it is, but I've learned in like undergrad that it was an oral tradition who used a lot of stories and a lot of symbolism, and like all they really cared about was passing the messages across, not so much the like details of the story. But I don't know, like it's hard to talk to those people because like just being a bio major, I remember like my first like break home from Creighton, they're all telling me like I'm going to hell because like I'm studying evolution. And they're like, oh, like, do you not love God because you're studying evolution? I'm like, I don't understand why why they see those two things as like related, when I think they're mutually exclusive. And I think even like Catholics accept evolution now, because I'm pretty sure that there was like an encyclical written by a pope about evolution. I know that there was an apology to Galileo about him saying that the sun was the center of the galaxy or whatnot, whereas like traditionally they thought that the earth was the center. And like I feel like it also it's just a very touchy subject without getting too like emotionally involved in it or anything, or not taking it too seriously. It's just so bizarre that there's like life experience, or ways that people grow up that causes them to reject science. I guess that's really all I have to say about that. But yeah, let's get into like some like interesting or crazy stories that happened this week. So like a really interesting story that I thought popped up was this story. It's been shared around on like social media a lot. I'm sure like a lot of you guys have seen it already. But if not, it's a story from slate.com, and it's "My husband won't take off his mask off even for sex." Yeah, I think that's like, yeah, that's like kind of crazy, like I don't know how true it is. I mean, this is like a like a tabloid-ish like pop culture, like I think it's like a magazine or something, I don't know, whatever publication. But like I think, yeah, so I think this like post is like ask for advice type thing, and I'll go ahead and read it for everybody. I did not read the response. There's like somebody that like responds to that individual, so it's here it goes. So, dear Prudence, whoever Prudence is, I have been married to a great guy for 5.5 years. He is handsome, sexy, funny, and kind. It's true that he has always been a little prissy about illnesses, but I never thought it was a real problem. However, during the pandemic, his terror about getting sick has reached new levels. For the last year, he has refused to take off his face mask even when we are at home, just the two of us. This is true even now that he is fully vaccinated for the virus.
He wears it to sleep, to do most of his bathroom activities, and yes, even during lovemaking. I don't know. Like, okay, I'll just like stop there for a bit. Like, if you're having that much of an issue with it, why are you lovemaking? Like, wouldn't you not be in the mood for it? I don't know. And it's like, how do you do that without like kissing or something, or like really seeing each other's faces or whatnot? Mm. Leaves a lot of questions, a lot of joke material there, I think. But yeah, um, I'll continue. To eat, he pulls it up to expose his mouth, then quickly pulls it back down between bites. While he does not insist that I do the same, I can tell it bothers him that I don't, especially because I have now started going maskless outside per CDC guidelines, and plan on restaurant dining inside soon for a girls' night out. I disagree. Wait, no, sorry, skipped ahead too far. When I have tried to present him with the science, he says scientists don't fully understand the virus yet. Also, this is my first time reading it, so it's kind of like interesting that I've heard these like responses for the people that refuse to get the COVID vaccine. Not making any judgments there or anything, just stating what they say or what's being said here. When I have tried to present him with the science, he says scientists don't fully understand the virus yet, or I know it probably isn't necessary, but wearing it doesn't bother me. So if there's even a small chance that it can protect us, I'd rather be on the safe side. What's the harm? I disagree that there's no harm. I want to see my beautiful husband's face again. I want to kiss him on the lips romantically, like we used to, and not through a piece of fabric. He does not change his mask very often and is often smelly and soiled. And I don't want to feel judged by him for my own behavior, which I consider reasonable. This is making me depressed and concerned about our future together. I have asked him when he plans to stop masking, and he says when it is safe for everyone. What if this becomes permanent? What if this becomes a permanent part of him? My mother, who is very conservative, thinks that I should move out. But I don't think I'm ready for that step yet. I want my husband back. How can I get through to him? And it's signed by Maskless and Alone. Huh. Well, that's like, kind of like interesting in my opinion. You want to see your husband's face. The first thing that comes to my mind is like, when you're growing up as like a kid, you talk about like, people that are butter faces. I don't know if you guys, know what that means. But it's funny because like people used to joke around about like, oh, just put a paper bag over it or something, or if she's like really ugly, put a plastic bag over it. Yeah, that's a bad joke. But like it's I don't know. It's just so weird that I mean, I get it. Like there are people in my life that do use those arguments like, oh, the scientists don't really understand it yet. I feel like that's kind of how science is. Like we never truly understand anything. Science is always like, changing, always evolving. I mean, like just look at, the most like public thing or publicized thing in science, which was COVID last year. Like at first, they had a set protocol as to how they treat patients, and like look at it today. Like it's very different. Like I think in the beginning they were using like ventilators, and now like you don't even hear talks about like ventilators. So it's and like even talking about all those drugs that they use to treat it and everything. But like that's just how science is. Like it's always like changing. That's what makes science like good. It's like you're always trying to progress the knowledge bases like further or forward. And I don't know, I think that the great thing about science is like, you have a knowledge, you have all this knowledge, and then from the knowledge you create insights, which help you produce like new hypotheses and everything. And then maybe from like after testing those hypotheses and whatnot, you gain like more knowledge or even like some wisdom out of it. Like I don't know, I always felt like that was like the progression, like knowledge to insight into wisdom. But I really don't know. Like this is a very tough situation. I do know I did know some people who were, choosing to stay home at all times, like not leave at all. But it's like, things are slowly opening up again. Like, are you just going to live in your home for the rest of your life? Like, there's so much more to life than, than whatever's in your home. And now that things are opening up again, it's like, don't you want to kind of, in a sense, like, do all the fun things you used to do before, like, this year and a half that we all lost in life? Like for me personally, like I'd want to, get out of the house more and, live more free in that sense. But I feel like if my significant other was, refusing to not wear a mask, especially one that, she said, like, it smells because it doesn't change it very often and it's soiled. Like, I I don't know. Like that seems like a little, that seems weird to me, especially since it seems like this person, like she stated earlier, that her husband's like afraid of getting scared. Like, I feel like you would know that, if you were that like germaphobic or whatever, like you would know that like smelly or, soiled masks would probably, be like a nesting ground of like bacteria, and that in itself could get you sick. Maybe bring that up, like that'll solve that problem. uh maybe base your arguments against or for him about using dirty masks, like, and say that, oh, it's like healthier for fresh air. Again, not a specialist in this, like, just like, comparing not having a mask versus constantly wearing a smelly and soiled mask, like, of course. But maybe like what that person's mother said might be true. Like, if it's at that point already where you have to write in to like a columnist for advice, I guess you could see a therapist. Or maybe it is at the point where it's like, he's too far gone and he's going to refuse to never, get rid of a mask. And I think that's like one thing COVID taught a lot of us. Like, a lot of us were living a life in the past, maybe we weren't necessarily happy with what we're doing career wise or happy with who we were in a relationship. It's like that was like a perfect time for everybody to reflect in life. And like, now that things are opening up again and real life is in a sense like starting again, it's like now it's time to make the changes to live lives we really want to live versus like the lives we had in the past. And that saying can be applied to like everything. Like, I really don't blame the people refusing to go back to work now because they make more off of like unemployment. Like, I mean, I've worked those minimum wage jobs for years, and like I know how a lot of those people feel. Even like the jobs that pay better, like a lot of employers don't necessarily like respect you as an individual. Like, they just see you as like a cog in the machine, or like something or somebody replaceable. And nobody wants to deal with like quote unquote bad managers or supervisors, and for really bad pay, or not really bad pay, but living a pay that is less than what you make on unemployment. So it's like you're forcing people to go back to work for less wages and to work harder and deal with more stress and more BS. It's like I really don't blame them for the most part. Like, I feel like it's up to the employer to, in a sense, like, raise either the pay or like the working conditions so that people can go are encouraged to go back to work. But I don't know, that's a separate issue, trying to stay apolitical and everything. But yeah, I feel like if I was in this situation, yes, it is your husband and everything. And, if you can't get through to him, it might be it. You could, like I said earlier, try therapy for, the both of you. Maybe a therapist would be able to help him, lose some of that like anxiety or angst about not wearing a mask, especially in a situation where like, you're in your own home. Yeah, I don't know. It's probably there's probably something like psychological going on there. Would definitely like try to speak to a specialist about that. But yeah, guys, shorter show today. We'll finish off with one more story. So I don't know if you guys know who the comic Tim Dillon is. He's a very popular comic at the moment. I feel like a lot of listeners here would probably find his humor offensive. He has very wild comedy. Yeah, but I don't know. I would suggest check him out and like listen to him for yourself. And I'd be curious to know what like people think about the guy. He's a very interesting dude. But like he's one of Joe Rogan's friends and like has regularly appeared on his podcast. And there was like a New York Times guy who emailed him or found his contact info and was asking him for to help him write like a profile on Joe Rogan. And Tim Dillon tells that journalist to quote unquote respectfully fuck off. And I don't know, I just thought it was really funny, but it's like it kind of makes sense, like when I feel like when you're doing something like that, they probably have like a conclusion that about I think the New York Times has wanted to call like Joe Rogan like far right, even though like if you really listen to him, like he's actually pretty progressive for the most part. I don't want to speak for him or anything, but it's like a lot of I feel like in that situation it's the New York Times reporter having like a opinion. It kind of goes back to like the confirmation bias. Like I feel like they're trying to write like a hit piece or something. Like they'll just interview you about like, so and so, and then they'll be like, oh, okay, like, oh, is there anything bad about him? But like they'll say it in a way that's not that direct, and then they'll just take that one part and run with it. The way I see it, it's like you ask somebody to be your reference on a job, and then the person hiring calls your reference up, and it's like why would you say anything bad about the person? And like, but in this case it's like, why even put yourself in a situation where like you're gonna have to say like no comment or something, like you're just setting yourself up for a lot of drama. And I just ask, like, I don't know. It's the way I see it. It's like, if you want to profile somebody, you have to like just talk to that individual. It's kind of hard to just like, I think it's a little shady going around like, beating around the bush in a sense of like, let me talk to people that are like close to him and see if like, they have anything to see what they have to say. I don't know. But at the same time too, if you talk to an individual that you're trying to profile, it's like, you're gonna pick and choose what you want to listen to. Like it could be like 99% good and 1% bad, and of course like if they want to paint you in a negative light, they're gonna really amplify that 1% bad. And I don't know, it's something I think about too, like nowadays when people ask me like, oh, how is so and so, like most of the time nowadays I just like stay quiet. I'm like, oh, I don't know, I just usually just don't like answer those type of questions. I'm not really interested in like those type of questions anyways. Like I like to talk about ideas more than people. But yeah, just kind of funny that you have a comedian telling some news organization as big as like the New York Times to respectfully fuck off. Like that's kind of funny. All right, we'll finish up with some fan mail. I have, I think, 2. Yep, looks like 2 this week. So here we go. Dear David, my girlfriend and I have been together since the start of the pandemic. Now that things are opening up, I want to go out with my friends, and she's been putting up a lot of resistance. Now she's having issues with me playing sports. I'm a fairly active guy and like to play sports like golf, basketball, and tennis. She's telling me that I only can play sports 3 days a week. 3 days a week. Wow. What is that, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday? Well, if you're golfing and you're working full time, it's probably like golf and then 2 times a week during the week. Unless you're golfing twice, then maybe 1 time a week. I feel like she's slowly stripping away at my masculinity. Help. And this comes from Tyler from Honolulu. Okay, Tyler. Well, I feel like a lot of us, like, guys out there in particular, like, because of COVID and whatnot, we're I guess I'll like share a little bit about myself for a little bit before I answer your help, I guess, your call for help. But I totally know what you mean. Like, COVID was a very awkward time for me. I thought, as like a single guy, you don't really, it was really like lonely. Like, at least before COVID, like, you could go out with your friends and, you could like have that sense of like, community there, or like just like connections to human beings there. But then when it was COVID and everything, it's like everybody's afraid to like, talk to or even be around each other. So like I see maybe how, maybe you might have like just settled for like a girl you might not typically might have like, would have dated maybe, or maybe throughout the course of like, COVID or whatever, you might have realized that, oh, this person isn't, who you want to spend the rest of your life with. But like, if you're only going out for like, what is that, like, maybe 2 years or so, like, and you're already having this much issues with, you having, your alone time or your free time, or, what you said about like you having issues even now hanging out with friends, I would really reconsider your relationship. Like, I think if you really think this person's like that special for you and everything, like, you should, talk to that person. Like, there's always like couples therapy you could go to, or, to talk about it, about why it bothers her. Maybe there's like some underlying meaning there. Maybe it's like that, mask wears mask during sex story. It's like maybe she's afraid that you're going to catch something playing a sport or hanging out with friends or something. Or maybe she's just really possessive over you, where like she's only allowing you to like hang or play a sport 3 days a week, or play sports 3 days a week. Like, yeah, it's like you're only 2 years or so into your relationship and you already have, this much issues. Like, I don't think it's going to get any better moving forward, my man. So really reconsider your relationship. Don't want to be the reason why you break up, but yeah, just reconsider your relationship. All right. And here's the next fan mail. Hey, degenerate. That was okay. That's a new one though. I recently found out my extended family are anti-vaxxers, flat earthers, and reject evolution. Wow, this is like me. Wow. And think that the world, oh yeah, those other things aren't that bad, but the anti-vaxxing is really getting to me. I know that things have opened up here, but they visit my grandfather every week, and I worry for his health. Don't worry, he is vaccinated. I still think they should get it to be safe. I've tried to show them the science-based evidence that vaccines are safe, but they refuse to listen. What would you do to convince them to get the shot? And this comes from Jessica from Honolulu. Thank you, Jessica. Well, the first thing that I like have to like, the first thing that I think about is like, why do you feel like it's on you to convince them to get the vaccine? It's like I get that you think you're doing it for the greater good, but at the end of the day, it's also like you trying to force your ideals or try to like force other people to live like in a particular way. And it's like, I feel like you've already done everything you could have done. You offered them the science-based evidence for what, or why vaccines are safe, and it's like, if they're not going to believe that, then, there's not much else you can do. I don't know. I like to live life relatively conflictless, and like I don't like to get into unnecessary arguments, especially when they're, as in this case where it's like you're almost never going to change their mind. Like, to me, there's no point. But I get your concern about your grandfather. It's like, at the same time too, like, what does your grandfather or your grandparents, what do they think about it? Like, are they is he okay with, like, your family coming over unvaccinated? And if he is, then that's the risk that he's willing to take. And I just don't think it's your place to really say what they should or shouldn't do. But like I said in a previous episode, for those of you contemplating the vaccine or whatnot, it's like, I'm not going to be the one to tell you to, yes, go get it, or no, go get it. It's like, I feel like it's something you should talk to your doctor about to see if, like, you should get it. But from my understanding, it's like, if you aren't allergic to anything in particular or had no adverse reactions to shots in the past, then of course it's